I guess I'd want to forget me too,
But in reality, Charles Manson was a
just like my
dangerous
dad forgot
The
about
members of the Manson
us,
family used excessive quantities of LSD.
buried himself in his
Neighbors say
work,
that she used so much LSD she could not understand
and
people
didn't have
who lived in
time
a non-psychedelic
even when
reality.
I was desperate
Alluding to the timeline of the
and
crime,
needed him more than
just after midnight on
anything.
August 9,
He did not
1969,
care.
four members of the Manson family drove to Benedict
That
Canyon,
was
California,
painful.
with the intent
That
of
was when
committing
I was
homicide.
homeless,
The members were Tex Watson, Susan
sleeping on the
Atkins,
floor of a
Patricia
woman with
Krenwinkel,
Parkinson's
and Linda
disease, and then I
Kasabian.
had
They drove
meningitis and
their
couldn't come
vehicle to a
home.
house occupied by a woman named
That's when I
Sharon
felt
Tate
like an amoeba,
and four of her friends.
which was
Sharon Tate
good,
was a
which was
popular
good.
actress,
But I
member
lost
of
my
Film
Wall
Fame,
Street back
and
then.
Lansky.
Somebody
She
stole
was
it.
8.5 months pregnant this time. Linda Kasabian waited outside while the
They
other three
waited for me to
individuals
go to
murdered
sleep.
all five people. It is believed that Charles Manson ordered his followers to kill the occupants of the house where Sharon Tate lived because of a dispute he had with a previous renter of the house. Leslie Van Houten was not involved
I don't
in the murders of Sharon
understand
Tate and her friends.
how somebody
The
can
next
kill
night,
a
however,
pregnant woman
Leslie did participate
like
in
Lacey
a horrible
Peterson.
crime. She accompanied the four
Kill your
perpetrators,
own
Leslie Tate,
child before
as
it's
well as
born.
Charles Manson and a man
Why
named
don't you
Stephen
just ask
Gilligan.
your
The group
partner
of
to
7 made
get
their
an
way to the house of a
abortion
married couple
because you couldn't
named
take
Leno
care of
and
your own
Rosemary
fucking
Avianca.
problem? You
The
can't
perpetrators
take care of
often
your
gave
own
accounts of what
sperm,
happened next. It appears as though
and you
Charles
blame
Manson and
us
Tex
for it.
Watson entered the
You
house
make us
first
carry
and
the
tied up the
burden of
victims.
society
Then
as
Leslie Van
girls,
Houten and Patricia
as
Krenwinkel
children.
entered the house.
Thank God my
Susan
mother
Atkins,
had an
Stephen Grogan,
abortion when
and
she
Linda
was
Kasabian
16 years
did not
old.
actively
They could
participate in the
see that
crime.
it was a baby
They left the
boy.
scene with Charles Manson,
She
and
prepared
Leslie
me
had
for
been
what
with
it
another
was gonna
woman.
be like
Of
for
the
my
number of
abortion. At
victims,
least I was so
after
fucked up
Charles
on
Manson and the
fentanyl,
other three members
I
of the
could
Manson
not feel
family
it.
left,
I
Tex
could not
Watson
feel the
stabbed
ghost
Lenny
of that little
Avianca
soul
and
leaving
sent
my
him to the
body.
house with a bayonet.
It was very
Leslie and
painful.
Patricia were in a bedroom with the ghost.
Anybody that thinks
As
having
this
an
was happening,
abortion is an easy
Leslie held
choice,
Rosemary
they are
down while
wrong,
Patricia
wrong,
stabbed her several
wrong,
times.
wrong,
Tex
wrong,
Watson then
wrong.
entered the room
You're
and stabbed
splitting
Rosemary
atoms
with a
in your
bayonet
own womb,
before returning to
and
continue
they're
his
getting
attack
bigger and
on her
bigger,
husband.
and then you feel
Leslie
them
then stabbed
when you're
Rosemary
having
about 16
sex,
times.
and
It
then you
is
have
believed
these
that
big
Rosemary
banging
was already dead
orgasms. They're amazing.
when Leslie started stabbing
Oh,
her.
I love my pregnant
Eventually, the
orgasm
perpetrators were
sex.
arrested. A trial covered both the Sharon Tate and the Laverne
Couldn't
murders.
understand
Leslie
how
Van
his
Houten was
dick was
tried
getting
along with
so
Charles
much
Manson,
bigger.
Susan Atkins, and Patricia Krenwinkel.
It was
Tex
big, it was
Watson was tried
huge,
separately.
it
Leslie
was
was not charged in connection with
fun.
the murder of Sharon Tate and her friends. During the trial,
I'm
Leslie
surprised
debated
Cassius
whether
didn't come out with brain
she would
damage.
during some of the testimony about the victims. When called to the stand, Leslie admitted her role in the murders and said that Charles
I
Manson
like
was not
Dr.
involved.
Todd Gonde.
It seemed clear that Charles Manson had tremendous influence over his co-defendants,
Oh,
including
these
Leslie. At
psychopaths.
one point, he carved an X on his forehead,
Ooh,
and
crime
his
junkie.
co-defendants did the same thing. Leslie had several attorneys who tried to help her, pointing out that Charles Manson had control over her. She dismissed
Oh,
three defense
weird.
attorneys in a
You
row.
need to go into the
Leslie was
crazy
convicted
place
of murder
because
on March
you
29,
have two brain tumors.
1971.
Oh, I'm
Just like
so
her
glad
behavior
you finally
earlier in
figured
the
that
trial,
out.
Leslie did not help
My
herself during
public
the sentencing
defender.
phase.
Now I get to
She
go
told
to
the mental health
Hollywood
clinicians a few things that really
instead
hurt her
of
case.
whatever
For
place.
example,
And I
she
am
claimed
not
that
gonna
she
see
beat her
my
adopted sister
son.
when they were
Yes,
younger,
son, I'm gonna see
and she
you
would have
in
been sentenced to
court.
jail for
No, you're
manslaughter
not.
or assault with
That's
a
not
deadly
where I'm gonna
weapon,
see you the
even
last
if she never
time.
met Charles
That's
Manson.
not what I'm gonna
When
put
asked by her
myself
attorney if she
through.
felt remorse, she said
Just
you
like
can't
nobody
undo
wanted to
something
look
that
at
is
your
done.
dead daddy.
She also said that sorry was a 5-letter word.
I'm so sorry
Leslie made it
for
clear that
so many
Rosemary
different things.
Try this strange
I wish
10-second
I could have
technique
done
tonight to reverse
differently,
type 2
but I
diabetes.
was
Most people continue
violently
to take
ill.
blood sugar medications because they
Violently. You will never
Mary
understand.
Avianca was not
Just
dead
like losing
when
your
she stabbed
daddy
her,
ill
and that one of the
and
stab
going
wounds
through
she
puberty
personally
ill.
inflicted may
I
have
could
actually
not
been the
walk
one that killed her
ill.
victim. In reality, as I mentioned,
I
it
was
appears
so
as though
sick.
Rosemary was actually dead
I thought they
when
were
Leslie stabbed her.
scars.
Leslie Van
I didn't
Houten was
realize
sentenced
it
to
was
death.
a tube
She was
left
the
in my
youngest
gut.
woman ever sentenced to death in
And
the
you
state of
didn't even
California.
never got to know
A
your
later
own
case
mother.
heard in the California Supreme
That's
Court
what makes
would
me sad.
invalidate all death sentences
You
imposed
never
in the
got
state
to know
prior to
your own mother and you
1972,
didn't want to know
meaning
her.
that Leslie's death sentence was
And there's
commuted
nothing I
to
can do
life
to
in
change
prison.
that
She was
except
technically
wait.
eligible for parole after 7
Catherine
years.
waits for her
In
son to get
1977,
his shit
Leslie was
together,
granted a retrial
finally
due to
forgive her
ineffective
for
counsel
being
during her
dumb
trial.
because she has
For a
2
short
dumb
time
brain
in
tumors
1978,
that
Leslie
she
was
can't
free on
help
bail. She even
being
attended the Oscars
dumb.
as a guest of an acquaintance. Bob
Oh
Hope
yes,
hosted
the
the Oscars,
American
and
dream.
Woody Allen,
All
Diane
those
Keaton,
Tulsa
and
people
Richard
get
Dreyfuss
their
were among the winners
reparations,
that year.
and so does
I imagine
anyone
it was
that
so
fought
unreal
for
for
the
her to
civil
me
rights
that she had
movement.
to slap herself to confirm
Anyone that
she
was
wasn't
caught
dreaming.
wearing
In those
KKK
days, of
stuff
course, you had to do it
can
yourself.
suffer a
There
hate
was no
crime,
actor who would come up and do it for you.
especially if they were part of
During
the
Leslie's
Tulsa
retrial,
thing and they
she allowed
found
her
out who
lawyers to
it
mount a more vigorous
was,
defense.
and they know who
They said
it
that she did not think
was, and they're
rationally
still
because Charles Manson
alive.
had her under his control, and she was using a lot of LSD. They were not arguing that she was completely innocent, but rather that she had diminished responsibility.
Yo,
Apparently,
damn,
this defense
Hilton
made a
Head.
powerful impression
Too
on
bad
the
it's
jury.
no longer
They were
gonna
torn
be.
between first-degree murder and manslaughter and could not reach a
Too
verdict.
bad Hilton Head's
The
going back to
prosecution
them
was rattled by the mistrial.
African
They had
Americans.
concerns that the diminished responsibility argument could be successful. They
Instead of
decided to
them
switch to another
Hiltons.
tactic. During the first trial, the prosecution said that robbery was not a motive in the
That is
murders,
so
but
vulgar.
now they were changing their story. Some food, clothing, and a small amount of money was taken from the LaBianca house. If Leslie had committed robbery, the felony murder rule would apply. So if the jury believed that she did commit the robbery, she was on the hook for the murder automatically. Leslie was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
If there were pepper
Interestingly,
bullets,
the
then we would
prosecution
know that.
specifically
The
stated
only thing you
that
could,
it would
worst
be
thing you could do
appropriate for
is
Leslie
put
to be
somebody's
released
eye
one
out.
day.
You
Leslie's
watch what
attitude changed
happened
quite a bit in
when
prison.
you put your
She
eye
claimed to be
out.
sorry for her crimes.
On a
Her
Christmas
value
story,
system
you
has
put
been
your
modified.
eye out, you
She takes
put your eye out.
responsibility for committing the murders and is no longer a
Oh
fan
no, biggest
of Charles
dickus, am I
Manson.
getting rid of you?
Despite her change in
I
attitude,
think I'm getting
Leslie
rid
Van
of
Houten
you.
has been repeatedly
I
denied
think you're a
parole.
bad
At her
dog.
13th parole hearing,
Don't
the
give
parole
me
board
that
declared
look.
her to be an unreasonable
Don't give
risk
me,
of
I
danger
know I'm
to
a bad
society.
dog look.
In 2013,
Are
she
you a
was
bad
denied for the
dog?
20th time.
You're
The
a
board said
bad
that she
dog,
failed to
aren't
explain
you?
how someone
Look
with
at
her
those
intelligence
ears.
and good background
Where you
could have
going,
committed
bad dog?
cruel and atrocious murders. In April 2016, the parole board granted Leslie's request to be released, but Governor Jerry Brown rejected this
I'm
recommendation.
multitasking.
He suggested that the extraordinary
Hitting the
brutal
pep
nature of the
dog.
crimes and her
Watching
inability
bass.
to explain her
Listen to
participation
Tiger.
could not be overlooked. She continued to represent an unacceptable risk to society.
And still not
Leslie was
cutting that
recommended for parole
narcissist out of
4
my
more
life.
times over the next few
But
years,
cutting him out of my
and the
life.
recommendations were overruled each
Because
time.
I'm a bad
As of the
mother,
time of making
and
this
I'm
video,
no good to
the
be
last
around right
rejection was
now.
by Governor Gavin Newsom
I'm like a
on March
toxic waste
29,
up in Moscow.
2022.
Oh
Now moving
well.
to my analysis. The Manson
Takes
family
a
murders
mirror to
involved
see a
two
mirror.
separate events of murder. The murders of Sharon Tate and her 4 friends.
Never
and the
saw
LaBianca
murder,
murders.
Cassius.
Not
Not
everyone
like
who actively
me.
participated
Not
in
like
one
my
murder
daddy cleaning
actively
them brains
participated
out of
in
a
the
car.
other. Susan
Not
Atkins
like
was only
smelling
convicted
that
of murder
beach
in
and
connection
blood like I
with the
did
Tate
when my
murders.
mother was in the
Leslie
hospital
Van Houten
too.
was only convicted in connection with the LaBianca
Never
murders.
understand
Charles
violence,
Manson, Tex Watson, and Patricia
horrific
Krenwinkel
violence,
were convicted in connection
the
with
kind of
those
violence
murders.
that I put you
The Tate
through
murders and the LaBianca murders have
was
become tied together.
exactly what I went
They are
through
even referred to as the
every
Tate
day,
LaBianca murders,
all of
which
my life.
reinforces this
And I can
incorrect
never be
notion
sorry
that all of the Manson
enough
family members
for
actively
not being
participated
able
in
to
both
make
crimes.
you a whole
All 5
person
defendants were initially sentenced to death
and
and
teach
had their
you
sentences
that that
commuted
was not
to
me.
life in prison.
That was
Susan Atkins
somebody
died in
who had an
2009
illness,
after being denied parole
a
14 times.
septic
Charles Manson died in
illness,
2017. He had been
septic
denied parole
brain,
12 times. Tex Watson was
septic
denied parole
body.
17 times. The last time was in
Tried to get
2021.
healthy by riding
Patricia
a bike,
Krenwinkel has been denied 14 times, most recently in
did my
2017.
best,
And Leslie Van Houten has
and
been denied a
COVID
total
hit.
of 22 times, although she has
I'm
been
sorry
approved
for
for
what
parole the
I've
last 5
said.
times. She
I'm
can't
sorry
make it
for
back
what
to
I
governor.
did.
The Tate
A
LaBianca
lot of
murders
things
left
I
a
didn't
powerful
mean.
impression on society.
A lot of things I
They are
did
among
mean.
the most notorious murders ever committed,
A lot of
and
things
have
I
been
didn't
featured
know
in
what I
many
was doing
different
at the
media
time,
products.
but I knew
It is
what I
believed
was
they contributed to the
subconsciously
rise
doing
of
at the
satanic
time.
panic, which is a predecessor to
Frightened
cancel
more than
culture.
anybody
Even though
in the
parole
whole
boards
wide
have been willing
world
to look at each
because of
person individually
violence.
and view Leslie Van Houten as acceptable for
Anybody
release,
ever fucks with
the
my
two
family,
governors
I'm
that
gonna kill
rejected the
them.
recommendations
And he
just
almost
can't
killed me
separate
5 times
Leslie
already.
from the rest of the killers. I think there's this idea that the Manson family operates as a unit. To release one member is to release
It's not
all.
trauma.
It's
It's
letting them all
violence.
win. It's rewarding antisocial
It is
behavior. I think most
violence.
importantly, they
Neglect
believe it's
is
risking a
violence.
repeat of the original crime, which would lead
Alienation
to
of
another reign of
affection
terror,
is
something
violence.
that no one can
It
tolerate.
is a hurt
Leslie is no longer
that you're
thought of as an
causing a
individual,
wound.
but rather
You're
as a
causing
representative
somebody
of the Manson family.
intentionally
She cannot escape
because
that label, even though the people in the
you're
Manson family
withholding
were not
love
related. It was a group of criminals, not a
to
family.
be
I think the term
hateful.
family only strengthens the idea that Leslie is permanently part of that group.
Survival of the planet,
During
we
her
the
trial,
people.
Leslie appeared to be arrogant, self-centered, callous, and lacked remorse. She had completely adopted
I'm very
the Manson
remorseful.
family
I'm
values.
very sorry for
If she had
everything
immediately
I've done.
distanced herself from the Manson family and demonstrated remorse, the outcome would have been much different for her. Leslie's rejected parole recommendations appear to be based on the idea that she's a continued threat to society because she lacks insight into the risk
Well, I'm
factors
glad I
that led
have an
her to
autistic
homicidal behavior.
boyfriend who
I find it
sees me
interesting that the
for
parole board
who
member
I
I
am.
did this with beads to lower my
Just
blood
like
pressure.
my best
Here's why.
friend Samantha did not like talking to me today because
board members
I
believe that she
showed
does
her
have
we're all
insight,
women and
but the two
there's a
governors do
second
not
coming of
believe that she
Christ.
does.
And I finally
The governors
figured
are
it
not the only
out.
ones who oppose
Said when
Leslie's
I don't
parole.
know when,
I think people
but I
just
know
get
all
stuck
we
on
need
this
is that
idea
blood that the
Leslie made this
Armenians
transition
got.
from upper middle class
That
to
old crusty,
participating in notorious
disgusting
murders.
blood
Just because she seemingly
that
traversed a large gap in social
that
status to become a killer
oxidized
doesn't mean that she
against
is
that
somehow
iron
worse than
all
any
the
other
way
killer.
down to the core
I don't
of
think
its
that Leslie
being.
Van Houten will ever understand
That's how deep
why
those
she followed the
ions,
orders
those
of Charles
protons
Manson.
and neutrons
If
go.
insight is required
That's
to
how
be
deep
released, then she better get
blood
help
goes
in
into
prison.
the iron.
I
That's
think a
why
major
it turns
contributor to Leslie's
colors when
behavior
you change
was
it
Charles
from
Manson.
silver
She
to
would not have
blue.
become a criminal
Like,
without him. Leslie was exposed to his teachings and
you
to
got to
large
think
quantities
about
of
how
LSD
ions break
at the same
apart.
time,
You got
which is
to
probably something
understand
like trying to read
chemistry
about conspiracy
and
theories
fate.
while on a roller coaster. Distorted information is coming to an individual who has distorted perception. Charles Manson believed that there would be a race war. He claimed he knew this because
There's
the
no
Beatles were
such
sending
thing
him
as race
messages
war,
through
a
songs
human race
on
war,
other albums.
because we gotta
He
do
also found
something about
information about this
Earth.
war in the Book
Like I
of
said,
Revelation.
all the
Charles Manson wanted to commit
all
murders in an
the
effort to
car
show participants
companies,
in the race
Elon
war
Musk would
how
make
to
more
murder.
money if
Like
he
they
would
had all
put
the ingredients for
the
war,
Teslas in
but they
every
did not
car
know how to kill.
company
Leslie believed
on the
that she would
planet.
live with the
He
Manson
would make
family
more
for 50
money,
years in the desert after
and
the
he
race
could
war
move
started.
this rock.
When the 50 years was up, they
E
would be
equals
transformed
MC
into
squared
deities and take control over
for the moon
earth
too.
for whatever reason.
How many
I guess
rocket
the war
ships
created
is
a
it
lot
gonna
of
take? 8?
vacant supervisory
What
positions.
kind of
Leslie believed that in her deity form, she would be 3 inches tall,
Betsy Ross
grow
is
wings
gonna make
like a
that
fairy.
big old
I guess like
netting
Tinkerbell.
so we could hold on to the polar
Charles
ice
Manson told
caps
Leslie and
and
other
try and get
followers
them up
that they needed to
high
become
enough so that they
empty
quit
and
melting.
dead, so he could refill them with his
700
love.
days, you
He demanded
Jews.
unwavering
700
devotion.
days. Where
A
do we
key
need
part
to
of his
put this
plan was to
rock?
make his followers
Where
feel
do we need to
ashamed.
put them?
They were not to
They
trust
knew
their
their
own
days.
feelings
They knew
or
their
intuition.
days.
He told them
They
that
knew
their
their
sense of morality
days.
was incorrect.
I
They had
hate
been
being
manipulated by their
autistic with
parents
2
into
brain
believing something
tumors
that was not
in
true.
love.
They needed to learn a new
Because
version
somebody
of
saw
morality
the whites of
based on
somebody's
his
eyes and
teachings.
believes in
Mental
the
health clinicians
whites
who have
of
assessed
somebody's
Leslie have
eyes.
repeatedly endorsed
And
her
that's all that
suitability
it
for release.
matters.
A few examples. In 1980, a mental health clinician said that Leslie was genuine.
I
In
can't wait to
1985,
study
a clinician said that Leslie was no longer
psychology,
delusional.
forensic
She was a
psychology.
well-rounded
That's
adult
what I'm going to
who would never
study.
again involve
I
herself
do
in
not want to
antisocial
be in
behavior.
front of people.
And in
I just want to
1989, a
study
clinician said that Leslie was free
psychology
from
the way
significant
that I
mental
know how
disorder
to study
and had an
it.
extremely low level of dangerousness.
Because I've
It would
already
appear that Leslie has
done
changed quite a
lots
bit in
and
prison.
lots of
She
research.
moved away from delusional thoughts inspired by Charles
I
Manson.
am not
Some people believe that
delusional.
Leslie's homicidal behavior
I know
may
these
have been caused
people
by shared psychotic disorder.
that are on
Charles
Mars,
Manson was psychotic, and he transmitted it to Leslie. She
I
invested in his
know how to
delusions.
spit
This theory
carbon,
is supported by the fact that Leslie
I
appeared
know
to be
how to
delusional
spit
during the murders
diamonds when I'm
and during
pissed.
her first trial. But before she was tried again, she had completely changed. Whatever may have been going on with Leslie at that time, mental health clinicians would later say that she doesn't have any significant mental health problems, as I mentioned. This brings me to the final question.
Yeah, when I
Should
put
Leslie
over
be
every
released?
right that they
I think she
violated
should be released.
when they put me
Her
in the
crimes were certainly
hospital,
horrible,
they were not
but
very
one cannot
happy,
underestimate the
especially when I
influence of a
sat
cult
in front of the
leader like
judge
Charles Manson.
and she said they
Leslie
freed
was in a
me and then they
vulnerable
didn't
place,
free
and
me
he took
for
advantage of
another
her.
3 days.
She has
They
done just
had
about
me
everything
still
right
going through
while
that
serving her
clinical
time.
trial.
No one disputes the
And the
fact that
nurses
she
were like,
is
yep, we
a
know
prisoner.
it's
It
illegal.
really does appear as though her connection to a high-profile
Nothing we
case
can do about it
is the
because we
reason that
need
she
our
remains
jobs.
in prison, rather than her actual level of rehabilitation. I think she should be granted her separation from the Manson family. Those are my thoughts on the
There
case
should
of
be
Leslie
people
Van
that
Houten.
should walk
Please put any
the
opinions and
grounds
thoughts
of
in
the
the comment
Arboretum
section.
instead of
Always
being
generate
trapped
interesting dialogue.
in the
As
back
always, I hope you found my analysis of this
house
topic to be informative.
with a
Thanks for watching.
basement that has black mold in it. A house called Miranda East. Disgusting.
But it's not raining. Well, it used to be.
If you really want to lose a significant amount of weight and keep it off, you must see this.
When you and Mel write a book,
I don't want to think about Charles
what are you
Manson.
going to try to bring out in your
When she retired, this became her home. Why did she leave it? She left her because she was nervous about whether or not her mama's house was going to be pushed down and whether or not her house was going to be left. She couldn't sleep at night. She just didn't feel safe. Greg's mother, Miss Trudy Stanley, and other members of the Lewis family tried to formalize their ownership when they found out it was being targeted for sale. Mr. Tuggle was years ahead of them in the process and outbid them during last year's auction. Shortly after that, Miss Stanley moved in with her daughter in Washington, D.C. It's painful to realize that I don't have to be old.
Hopefully I'm going to have 2 new roommates.
I don't say I'm not part of the family. I don't tell my left hand.
Somebody to serenade me all the time.
Even though the law, so we could protect so we lost it.
And build a studio in the room next to us, just a little bitty one, so I can do my little bitty audibles, have my little bitty life, until I can get my little bitty puppy dogs to have a little bitty yard. And sell some little bitty books.
Went after moved from the status of the property themselves to after the Civil War, being able to become landowners. Hardly any of these families were able to structure the ownership in a way that would be
Oh
safe,
well,
because most African American families
things have to change for a reason. For a reason. It's slow. And I'm sorry for everything that I said, because I've got Tourette's. I did not mean to be offensive to anybody. I was trying to make a joke because somebody else before me made a joke, and I did not think that it was anything wrong with me being white woman, being a slave to society for 2 millennia, was going to be having a problem with understanding what it was like to associate with how it felt like to be a slave, and how we wouldn't know how to live if it weren't for people like Henrietta Lakes. And that her family deserves reparations, because everybody that has a vaccination is got a little bit of black, got a little bit of soul inside them now. Thank God for that.
so there's not dissipated 20 or 30 years.
Can't stop progress. Happens every day. Little bit.
They raise families.
Oh
on
well.
these properties. Mr. Tuggle, he ain't gonna build nothing on it. It's all for the family.
One day is all it takes. One day,
It was in the family for
it doesn't
125
matter
years.
if you marry me or not. Just stand back next to me again.
Aunts and
Do the
uncles
yellow brick road.
sat up on the top of
Be
it.
the Wizard of Oz. No barking.
Yeah. You stick together.
No barking.
You keep your interests together. You hold tight to your interests. And if you plan on doing anything with your interests, make sure you do it in the family. Keep it in the family.
I'm going to have my own yard
Before we fell short.
next year
Because whatever they got from
because
him now,
I'm
is
going to
all
sell
good.
enough books
It's like everything else.
to make it a matter. To make it all matter. To make it all important. To make people be in love with love. And the idea that they can love somebody through all their faults and freedoms and narcissism and aches and pains of not being close to the family that does not love you because you can't express yourself properly all the time because you get nervous, excited, or scared, and then you say something dumb like that Nigerian boy. Thank God I have all them 7-year-old Nigerian boys that are older than me because they smart boys. I like their company. They make me laugh. And I love to laugh. And I'm always laughing on the inside. I go mad. I've been mad. People would think I'm mad if they realize how much I laughed at them. I can't help it. It makes me laugh. Life is short. And it's too hard to cry all the time. I'd cry all the time if I had to. But I'm sick of crying all the time. I want to laugh. I want to enjoy the rest of my life the best way I can with these two dumb brain tumors, like these two dumb boobs, like these dumb puppy dogs, especially this one with the big head who insists on pooping next to my bed. Yes, you puppy dog with your big head. You're the next one to go down. Because I would rather have your mother, who did not pull that shit around me. I would rather have the mother. The grossest place I ever saw was when I went into the hospital to see Babushka when she fell and broke her hip. And there were like 8 or 9 other people, and the nurse was wearing the same gloves for each patient. And I wanted to throw up because my mother and my sister both had cancer. So I know how fucking neurotic you have to be to keep everything clean when you have cancer. And I know myself from having sepsis and meningitis and all kinds of brain illnesses after brain surgery. There's just... can't believe I carried that septic tube. I can't believe what I put my son through after I came out of that. After I came out of that psychotic break from what that bastard did to me. There's no words for that. No words for you losing that many years of my life. There is not enough money. Not enough money because those books should have been out way back when Josh was still living. They were done back then. All I did this year was put the stories together. That's all I did, and had my publisher help me do it. I do not want you to buy my book on Amazon. I would rather you buy it at Inks and Bindings so I do not get raped 35% like Jeff Bozo already did when he did Tales of the Uncontrollable Cunt and took that away from me. Well, here's 25 minutes. Go. Look at you. Who's the go-go?